So most food products, if not all of them, will have these food labels on them. So the first thing that you'll see below the nutrition facts is your serving size. So for instance, this particular food item has 8 servings per container, and the serving size is 1 cup. So that means that this entire food label is based off of the 1 cup. But it's very rare for food items to be only the serving size. Usually there's 8 servings per the container. So if you eat the entire food item, you could potentially be consuming 8 servings, which is 8 of these. So you'd be multiplying everything on here by 8. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize whenever they're consuming things, is that they might think that, oh, this box of cereal only has 230 calories whenever I eat it. But if you're putting in more than 1 cup of cereal in your bowl, you're actually doubling this, or if not tripling it. So that's something to be aware of whenever you're looking at these food labels, because a lot of people don't realize that. So that's one of the main things that I want to touch on. And so then from there you'll see your calories, and then it'll go into each particular breakdown of nutrients like Chrissy just talked about. So the first one usually is total fat. So it'll give you your total fat for the product. This one is 8 grams. And then it'll give you your percent of daily value. So what this means is that throughout the day, you're supposed to have a particular percent or particular amount of fat intake. Like we said, the 1 thumb per serving. So with this is saying that for this particular food item, it's going to take up 10% of your total fat for that day. And then below the total fat, it'll give you a breakdown of the different types of fat that are present in the food item. So for instance, the saturated fat, like Chrissy had talked about, and also trans fat. Trans fat is a fat that you typically want to avoid because it's even more than the other fats will clog your arteries a lot faster than all the other ones. So it's very good to make sure that you're consuming foods that have 0 trans fat, which most food products now don't have any trans fat in them because of that aspect. But it's also something just to be aware of. So then there's your cholesterol. So if you're somebody so cholesterol is in our body naturally. And some people have high cholesterol already because of genetics. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. So if you're somebody who needs to monitor the cholesterol, because you have high cholesterol, or you just want to prevent any further complications, and this would be where you would find it. It's very important to keep track of your cholesterol because of that aspect. And then we have our sodium. So sodium, which is your salt, would be, for this food product, it's 160 milligrams. And I'll get into it later why it's important to reduce your sodium and some of the aspects that sodium can cause on your body and the way that it works. Then it'll have your carbohydrates. Underneath your carbs, it'll list your fiber intake for that product, as well as any added sugars that have been added to it that maybe aren't accounted for. It'll add that then and then give you your total. So for this one, it's 37 grams, which would account for a total of about 20% altogether. And then your proteins will be listed on the bottom. And then below all of these things will be your vitamins, usually listed following that, and then the ingredients list will be below that. So for some people who need to avoid certain food or certain ingredients, that will be listed down below for you to look at. Sometimes they are very small, so maybe having a magnifying glass if you have a hard time seeing, because I even have a hard time seeing them, so I know that they're hard to read. But that's just the basic nutrition label. So going on from there, so hydration is very, very important as you age. So as you age, your body tends to not tell you to drink. So your body could be very, very thirsty, but your mind is not going to tell you that, oh, I need to drink something. So it's very important to make sure that you're maintaining good hydration, drinking your water, because as we know, as Allison had said, that there's no sugar in water, so it's very good for your body, and it's good for your cells. So typically, whenever you age, your body, you need to be intaking 2 liters of water a day, which seems like a lot. So a typical water bottle, an 8-ounce water bottle, those plastic ones, you would have to have 4 of those. For the day, yes. So 4 water bottles a day would equivalent to how much you should be having of 2 liters. So right there, for instance, one of those bottles is exactly 4 of those would be what you would need to take. Yes.
16 ounces.
Mm-hmm. Those ones are 16?
So that would be 4 of these.
Roughly, yes.
Oh my word.
So that's just a kind of visual for how much you should be intaking, because a lot of people, that's hard for a lot of people to drink that much throughout the day. Some people like to substitute it for coffee, but coffee and tea, if they're caffeinated, will dehydrate you. So as you probably know, as you drink coffee, you tend to pee a lot more. It just happens. So caffeinated beverages like coffee, like tea, like pop, energy drinks, or alcohol, any of those things can dehydrate your body very quickly. So if you're drinking those things, it's important to actually increase your water even more than just the 4 bottles to try to compensate.
Even juice.
Juice has a lot of sugar and sodium in it, yes. So it can also make you have to go a lot more and dehydrate you as well.
Okay.
So water is the best alternative and the best option if need be. So does anybody know any signs and symptoms of being dehydrated?
I've been there a lot of times.
Have you?
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Very dry. Mouth
Yes.
dry.
Mouth dry.
Oh my, terrible.
Yeah, your skin can be dry
Yeah.
in severe cases. You can be really tired and
Tired.
dizzy even.
Yeah.
A fast heart rate is something that can also be, so maybe if you're sitting there watching TV and you shift and then all of a sudden your heart's racing, it could be because you're dehydrated. Also, if another thing to be aware of is that if you're dehydrated, you can become a lot more confused. So if you feel, or if you've ever maybe had this happen to you before, maybe it could be because you need more water intake. So if you feel like you're getting a little bit more confused about certain things, it could just be that you need some water. So that would be my first thing to go to if I were to be in that situation. So yeah, that's basically the hydration aspect of how much you should be getting, especially as you age. It's very important to maintain hydration because a lot of people don't tend to do that.
So water's the key.
Water is the key, yes.
Okay.
But you can also have coffee and tea in moderation, but it's just some of those things that you need
Water
to make
that's
sure.
most important.
Yes, yes. So next I'm going to talk about calcium. So calcium is really important as you age also because your bones have been through years and years of exercise and extraneous activity, and they start to get weak as you get old. Especially women, we are at increased risk for osteoporosis. So that means you're going to have frail bones. You can break your bones a lot easier than normal. So it's important to make sure that you have good calcium intake. Does anybody know any foods that are really good in calcium? Besides like your dairy, use like your dairy products like milk and stuff, but do you know anything outside of milk
Ice
and
cream.
dairy? Well, that would be your dairy, yes. Also hard sugar though, so you gotta watch.
Beef liver, good solution for what you talking about?
Calcium for beef. I'm not sure. I know liver is good for you in certain things, but I can't remember if it's for calcium or not.
It's more iron.
I know, yeah, that's a lot of the, because it's so vascular, whenever you, but salmon is a good one. Fish that has the bones in it. So if you are a sardine person, I am not, but if you are a sardine person, it's very good for you with the calcium because you're eating actually the bones in the fish, which have a lot of calcium in them. So it's a really good intake of calcium. Your soy beverages, tofu is also another good thing with calcium.
No.
I know. And then green leafy vegetables. So your collards, your turnip greens, your spinach, all these things have really good calcium in them. Lettuce, a little bit, more so spinach because of the darker green leafy aspect. But then beans also. So black beans and white beans are also very good in calcium as well if you like those things instead of maybe sardines. But and then in addition to calcium, it's also very important to take in some vitamin D. So unfortunately, we don't live in a sunshine state, obviously. So it's very dreary a lot of the times in Ohio. So it could be important to incorporate some vitamin D, maybe a supplement. You can talk to your doctor about maybe incorporating a vitamin D supplement into your regimen, if that's acceptable for you, to help, because vitamin D will help calcium go into your bones. So you can consume a lot of calcium, but sometimes it doesn't all go into your bone. So if you take a vitamin D with your calcium, a vitamin D supplement, it's going to help the calcium actually go into the bone and help its absorption. So that's sodium. So last thing I'm going to talk about is sodium, which is salt. So as we know, salt is in almost everything that we eat except maybe your fruits, vegetables, and meats that haven't been processed. So with salt, especially in your frozen foods, your canned foods, they all contain a lot of sodium. So in addition to salt, maybe clogging some of your arteries or assisting with that, it also holds on to a lot of water. So if you consume a lot of salt and a lot of sodium, it's going to hold on to a lot of your water. So if you think about it, if you consume a lot of it, you're going to have a lot more water circulating in your system, which can lead to high blood pressure over a long period of time. So it's important to make sure that we understand that. So especially like your lean cuisines or your healthy choice frozen meals, they might be a better alternative to frozen foods, but they're also still going to have a decent amount of sodium in them. So it's important to make sure that you're aware of that. And like we said, maybe instead of salting your foods, you can use spices. or herbs, so like maybe garlic or oregano or paprika, whichever you like the best. You can do that instead of a salt. That way it's a good alternative and it's not going to hold on to as much water in your system. So does anybody have any questions now?
They have garlic salt, onion salt.
Yes. So that's basically going to be a mix of your normal salt and some garlic as well. So it's still going to be, there's still salt in it, which is the problem. But if you could use maybe that in a little bit of moderation, it would work. So maybe like little salt packets whenever you go to restaurants or something, like you only using half of the salt packet instead of using the whole thing, or using multiple would be a good option or a good alternative. Look at the garlic salts and onion salts will still contain salt in them. It's not just going to be the straight herb or spice. It's going to have some sodium in it as well.
I don't know how to use it, so I've tried it, but I made my food too salty, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't use it.
Understandable.
My doctor put me on a gallon and a half of water a day.
Okay.
I have one kidney. And put me on a gallon. First, when I started, I never drank water in my life until I lost that kidney. Then, now I drink water constantly. But also the salt, I'm not allowed to have any salt. I don't salt my food, nothing. And,
Was that a hard shift for you?
yeah, because I had a lot, I had a shaking.
Yeah.
But, no, I don't touch that salt. I use pepper. But I don't, or I'll take, my, garlic and I'll smash it all up. Yeah, and if you just take the garlic on my salad plate and I put it around, I just rub it on my plate instead of chopping it up. A lot of people don't like to chew that garlic.
Yeah.
Well, I can eat a whole garlic. I love garlic. But, anyway, I'll do that. Just do it like, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
It all goes into the vegetables and everything.
I think with reducing your salt, it's going to be something that you're going to have to do slowly in moderation. So you're not going to be able to just cut salt out cold turkey. Some people have, and it's been fine.
Yeah.
But it's really hard for a lot of people because all your life you've been used to having salt. Salt's on everything in America. That's just how we are. But so maybe just instead of the next time you shake the salt maybe 2 or 3 times usually, maybe just twice or once. You know, just you gotta decrease it slowly, or else some people struggle with it a lot. So that's just something that you guys can try too. And maybe a little bit less salt with more spices, and try to compensate that way, and just slowly decrease it would be a good option for a lot of people. Yeah.
What's the difference between the milks for the calcium? We have 1%, 2%, and whole milk.
Oh, with the milks?
Yeah.
So with the milk, the whole milk is going to have the most fat in it. Is the difference with that. So a lot of so with dairy products, a lot of if you do like a whole milk, that's
Vitamin D?
they do have vitamin D milk, so they'll put some vitamin D in with that milk. But the whole milk is going to have a lot more carbohydrates, and a lot more sugar, and a lot more fat in it compared to your skim milk, where they've removed a lot of that out of the milk already. So and like your 1% and 2%, that's just telling you the
2%.
yeah, that'll tell you how much fat has been left in the milk along with the carbs. So whole milk has a lot more sugar, a lot more fat. The more that you go down the line, the less that's going to be in the milk.
The 2% has more calcium.
Not necessarily. It's just more based off of the fat and the sugar content, more so. All milk is going to have calcium in it.
Yeah.
But the vitamin D is also going to help you get some of that into your bones too. So maybe the vitamin D milk would be a good alternative as well. If you're used to getting 2%, maybe try some of the vitamin D to help you.
The doctor's got me on whole milk.
Do they have you on whole milk?
2%.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, that could be something you could ask him about the next time for the bones. That's why. Okay. Well, yeah, you could even ask him about that the next time you go in to see his reasoning behind it too, because that could be why too. Maybe that's just how your body absorbs it the best. It could be that option too. But that would definitely be something I would ask him next time you go see him.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just got a question about the vitamin D milk. Isn't that better wouldn't the vitamin D milk or the whole milk be better for your brain?
For your brain, because the glucose aspect.
Yes.
It could, yes, but then you're also getting a lot of glucose from other foods too. I don't have a lot of knowledge or background on what milk's the best milk to be consuming.
I just think for older people.
I do